Hello. Today we are going to show you a ransomware infection and recovery in real time. Ransomware is a really significant threat to small and medium businesses around the world. And today we're going to look at how a managed service provider is able to use a full range of tools from Datto to deal with a ransomware incident with one of their end users. And it actually is going to begin from the perspective of the end user, who is a gentleman named Walter Richards. Ben, tell us about Walter.
Thanks, Tim. So, Walter Richards is the senior accountant at Richmond Gardens. Richmond Gardens is a business supported by Bontech, and Bontech are a premier MSP. The service offerings that Bontech are currently using, such as Autotask PSA for a ticketing system, they've got Datto RMM to be able to remotely monitor and manage any of their customers' machines from anywhere around the world, BCDR to be able to back up and get their customers' servers up and running in the event of a disaster, SaaS protection for Office 365 backup, and cloud continuity to be able to back up Windows 7 and Windows 10 machines. Finally, to tie all of those machines together is networking.
Walter is going about his job as the accountant at Richmond Gardens, and we can see some of his data up here that he's using to perform his job function. And Walter has got a really important meeting a little bit later on today that he's been preparing a presentation for. So Walter is going to drag the presentation from his downloads folder into his documents folder where he stores all of his key files, getting ready for his meeting a little bit later today. And the OneDrive sync client is automatically syncing that offsite to OneDrive, and Walter can see that that's ready for him to go for his meeting. So he's happy and he thinks he's prepared. And Walter's noticed he's got a new file that's appeared in his downloads folder called Quarterly Reports, and it looks like a spreadsheet. But he thinks it's legitimate, it looks legitimate, and so he's going to go and double click on it and try and open it up and see what's inside. Now he's double clicked on it and nothing is happening. But actually there's something malicious going on and his data is starting to change. What's happening to Walter's data, Ben?
So, we can actually see on the screen right now that all of his files have changed and they've now gone white. The main reason for that is they have changed file extension, so it's changed to a .ecc. We can also see that a huge red box has popped up on the screen, and I think it's fair to say that Walter is probably pretty terrified right now.
Yeah, any big red box appearing like this is going to be rather intimidating, and he knows this is serious.
Exactly. So for those of us here, we can see that it's been encrypted with an RSA 2048-bit key, and what that means is it will take about 6.4 quadrillion years to decrypt every single password combination, which is an incredibly long time, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, certainly longer than Walter's got to be able to sort this out before his meeting a little bit later today. To make things even worse, Walter has noticed that all of his data in the cloud has also been encrypted. That's because that OneDrive sync client that's sitting in his system tray has sat there doing its job, and it's noticed, oh look, there's a whole bunch of data change on Walter's machine. I'm going to send this to the cloud. Only this time, all of that data change was a ransomware attack spreading through all of his data. So Walter's local machine is encrypted and his files offsite in the cloud are also encrypted, and he's got this big red ransomware note on his machine that he is really concerned about. What's Walter going to do, Ben?
So there's two things that Walter can do here. He can go right to the bottom right hand corner and right click on the little B logo and take a screenshot and request support using his Datto RMM agent that is installed on his machine. This will allow him to be able to get support remotely. However, it's not going to be as quick as simply calling Bontech. So that's what he goes ahead and does.
Now at this point, we're going to transition from the perspective of Walter over to this perspective of the technician. This technician spends most of their time in Autotask PSA, which is the professional services automation tool that Bontech use to run their business. And when I say run their business, it really is everything. And that's what we've got up on the screen here. It's a dashboard in the service desk portion of the platform that allows this technician to monitor their work and view requests coming in from customers. So what's the first thing the technician's going to do?
Well, technician's going to go ahead and straight away open up a ticket, and they can do that by clicking on the little plus icon right at the top left-hand side of the screen. From here, we can see the ticket has now opened, and there's two things that our technician is going to need to do to start off with. First and foremost, they need to set that ticket category to an incident. Then, over on the right-hand side, we're going to see that there is a speed code that's going to need to be set. The speed code is very simply a preset template that you can obviously set up beforehand. It pre-fills out descriptions, checklists, and other fields should you need it to. This is a great way to be able to save your technician's time. The configuration item ties directly in with Datto RMM. So we have a built-in integration between RMM and PSA, and this allows us to be able to pull devices over from RMM and input them into our ticket. You'll see the configuration item has been set as Walter Richards machine, and then once that has been populated, on the far right-hand side, you're going to see the Datto RMM device widget has also populated itself. From here, the technician can then just go ahead, finalize a few things, update the description, and then save that ticket.
So inside of a couple of minutes, the technician has captured all of this information from Walter quickly and efficiently. And so the technician has amassed all the information they need. So the call with Walter ends, and the technician then starts looking at his checklist from that speed code as part of BondTech's best practice for dealing with malware and ransomware incidents. And what is first on the list?
So we need to determine the recovery timeframe, and then once that has been determined by our technician, we can then go ahead and verify the extent of the infection. To verify the extent of the infection, we're going to utilize one of the tools that BondTech has in its arsenal, and that is Datto RMM. We're going to go straight over to the Datto RMM device widget again, and right where the technician's hovering over right now, you'll see there's an open device button. From clicking on there, a brand new tab is going to open up, and this has automatically signed us into Datto RMM because we were already signed in with Autotask PSA, again, that integration we have between the two, and it has loaded up Walter Richards' machine. Straight on this page, we can already see there are a few things that are a little bit strange. There's some alerts that have popped up. We can quite clearly see that the antivirus has not been detected for quite some time.
And with just another single click, the technician is able to seamlessly initiate a remote web takeover of Walter's workstation.
Pretty clearly, our technician can see that ransomware is on this machine. They can see that we've got that ransomware big red box, and that, well, Walter seems pretty stuck. Is that right?
Yep, so the technician is pretty certain this is a genuine ransomware attack.
So they're going to jump straight back into Autotask PSA and update that ticket. They're going to put in a little description just saying verified ransomware is there, and we need to get this machine off of the network. And again, to be able to do that, we're going to use Datto RMM paired with Datto networking. From there, on the left-hand side, we can select the Richmond Gardens switch. Now, because of the tight integration that we've got from Datto networking to Datto RMM, we're able to configure and manage these switches straight from Datto RMM. On the right-hand side, we can see some radio toggles to be able to disable the ports, but I'm right in saying we don't want to disable the port, yeah?
No, these radio buttons take the port offline, and it's just like unplugging the cable. Now, that will get Walter's machine offline and potentially stop the ransomware infection from spreading, but it's also going to cut off BondTech from access to some of these machines. BondTech and the technician don't want to simply take these machines offline. They want to be able to just isolate the infection. And to do that, they're going to drill down into Datto Network Manager, which gives them much more granular controls over the interface of this switch. So talk us through it, Ben.
Excellent. On the left-hand side, you're going to see port settings, and then from there, we've got a list of each of the individual ports that are on the Richmond Gardens switch. We're going to select all the ports here, and then we're going to go straight into the configure button. From there, scrolling down a little bit, there's going to be the isolation setting, and we're going to turn on port isolation for all of my ports across that switch. What this is going to mean is that ransomware cannot move from Walter's machine to infect any other machines if it has not done so already. Ransomware should not be able to flood the network any further. Next up, we're going to go straight back into our Autotask PSA ticket. So we can see that the machine has been isolated from the network. It's not going to infect anything else, but we really should make sure it hasn't already infected anything.
There's one particular machine at Richmond Gardens the technician is quite concerned about. Richmond Gardens have a server that provides key line of business applications to the organization, and if ransomware is on that, then we're going to have to potentially invoke disaster recovery for that server. And that server has already been isolated, so it's already off the network as part of the port isolation that the technician has just configured. And so the technician is going to address this by going straight back to Datto RMM and then drilling down into the Richmond Gardens site a bit further.
And then from the management pane, we're able to jump straight over into our backup management. Now, backup management allows us to be able to manage our BCDR appliances inside of RMM. This is a great integration we've got across the Datto fleet. From jumping into backup management, scrolling down a little bit, we can see some information regarding our Richmond Gardens server. And it looks like there's a slight issue there, Tim.
So the technician can see via the integration from the Datto partner portal into Datto RMM that the backup appliance, the Cirrus appliance that's on site at Richmond Gardens, is online and healthy, which is good news. But he can also see that there are a few errors with some of the backups for Richmond Gardens server, which is concerning, and perhaps symptoms that ransomware has already reached this server on site at Richmond Gardens. And the technician is going to investigate this further by hitting this Launch Remote Web. This is going to initiate a secure connection from the technician's browser straight down to the backup and continuity appliance that's on site at Richmond Gardens. And it's taken us straight through securely and efficiently to the interface to be able to perform the next stages of the recovery.
From this page, we can see that ransomware has been detected. Ransomware detection is one of the key pillars built into our Cirrus appliances. We can see under the managed recovery points that ransomware has been detected in our most recent backup, and that gives us some concern. We can easily see here that we need to get back up and running using a safe backup that we have taken. How are we going to do that, Tim?
Fortunately, the inverse chain technology that Datto has developed and has got patents on is going to protect the previous healthy backups from the infected backups that have arrived as a result of backing up that Richmond Gardens server after the ransomware had spread to it. So the technician can see there are a range of backup points here that are healthy and good and can be used to invoke disaster recovery.
Excellent. So on the left-hand side, we're able to see the systems at which we are protecting using our Datto BCDR appliance. We're going to select RG server because we know that that is what is currently in a bit of a disaster, and we're then going to go through and choose the recovery type. There are 9 different recovery types baked into this solution on this page alone, which is a ton of different restores that we're able to run. We're going to choose our third restore down, and that's local virtualization. That's using the built-in hypervisor that's on the Datto appliance to get this server back up and running with minimal downtime. On the right-hand side, we can select our recovery point. Those are our backups that we've been taking. From there, the BondTech technician has selected the Start VM.
At this point, the technician is presented with a choice to pause the backups of the original Richmond Gardens server or to continue them. And the technician is going to choose to pause them because the live production server is offline, it's isolated, it's not being used. We don't want to back that up anymore because we're about to create a copy of it in disaster recovery. And so the technician pauses the backups on the existing production server and hits this confirm button. And now what's going to happen automatically is really, really clever. The appliance is going to take that healthy backup that was selected, convert that backup into a fully accessible virtual machine, configure the appliance and Datto's purpose-built cloud to continue to back up this disaster recovery server and get everything ready with just a few clicks of a button. So once that whole process has finished being prepared, the server then starts to power up and we can see the boot process starting now. We can see that the Richmond Gardens server is finished booting, and that means that all those business critical applications that the Richmond Gardens organization relies on are not going to be offline anymore, and that minimizes the outage to just a few minutes.
Excellent. Our technician can now jump straight back into the Autotask PSA ticket and update saying that there was an issue with the Richmond Gardens server, but we have invoked DR. This server is now back up and running on the Datto BCDR solution.
The technician hasn't forgotten about Walter and Walter's meeting that's coming up a little bit later today, and the fact that Walter needs his data back. And so the technician is now going to restore Walter's data back to him so that he can go ahead and deliver his meeting.
Excellent. So we're going to go straight and open up a brand new tab and go right into our Datto partner portal. From there, the technician has selected the SaaS backup status page, and then they've got a list of each of the clients that BondTech is currently managing. We've been able to find Richmond Gardens here and jumped into the management pane for Richmond Gardens Datto SaaS Protection account. Datto SaaS Protection is backup for Office 365, and we're able to do really quick, easy restores that we'll show you in a second. From here, you can jump into the recovery and then OneDrive, and we've now got a list of each of the accounts that are being backed up using Datto SaaS Protection inside of Richmond Gardens. By selecting Walter Richards right at the bottom, we've got his most recent backup that has been taken of his OneDrive account. We can also go back to previous backups if we want using the snapshot selector. Datto SaaS Protection takes 3 backups a day, morning, noon and night, roughly every 6 to 8 hours. From here, we can select Walter's documents. We can go ahead, click on the restore button, and then we have a couple of different options. We can restore the whole snapshot should we want to, or just that one selected folder. We're also able to decide whether or not we want to restore this straight back to Walter's account or to any other account.
So this restore has been initiated. In the background, the Datto SaaS protection platform is now pushing back all of that data from Datto's backups straight through into Walter's OneDrive account. At this point, the technician picks up the phone and gives Walter a call, as promised, and explains to Walter the steps that have already been taken, and then says that they've initiated a recovery of Walter's documents straight back into his OneDrive.
So, technicians said once you've signed into O365, please jump straight into OneDrive, and then once you've jumped right into OneDrive, you should see a folder called Restore with the date and time after it. From clicking into that folder, you'll see another folder called OneDrive, and then inside of there, you'll see a folder called Walter's Documents. That's the folder that we have just restored, and your data should be in there. So in a matter of seconds, we've been able to restore all of Walter's documents, and Walter is now out of his disaster. He is no longer infected with ransomware, and he can now go ahead and successfully take that meeting with the heads of Richmond Gardens. From there, the technician at Bontech can go straight back over into the Autotask PSA ticket, update the ticket, letting everyone know that they have supplied Walter his documents using SaaS protection.
So Walter is overjoyed, but Bontech's job as an MSP is not done yet. They've still got this Richmond Gardens server running in disaster. That's going to have to be moved back into production at some point, and Walter's workstation itself is still infected with ransomware and needs to be rebuilt. Let's take a quick look at how Bontech can actually rebuild Walter's workstation using Datto Cloud Continuity, which they use to protect all of the workstations that are on site at Richmond Gardens.
Excellent. So our technician has just gone on site, and they have installed something on a USB called the Datto Utilities ISO. From there, they've plugged that USB straight into Walter's machine, and then from plugging into Walter's machine, they've gone into the BIOS, as you've just seen, and reordered the boot, basically allowing us to boot from that Utilities ISO. We can now see we are actually running through that boot process.
So this recovery environment is going to talk straight through to Datto's cloud and allow the technician to rebuild Walter's machine. It's now online, we can see its IP address, so the technician can grab that IP address, enter it in, and start to access this recovery environment that is going to allow him to rebuild Walter's workstation.
And from there, there's going to be two different recovery methods that they can utilize: rapid rollback and bare metal restore. All of Walter's hardware is fine, nothing has changed, so why not utilize rapid rollback? That allows us to be able to copy down only the data that has changed from his machine now and the most recent backup that we have got stored in the Datto cloud.
Exactly. And because Walter's hardware is exactly the same, the technician doesn't need to restore to a different system, and is then able to authenticate himself with the Cloud Continuity platform, which is going to present the technician with a list of all the different sites that Bontech are managing with Cloud Continuity, of which one of them is Richmond Gardens.
Excellent. So, from selecting Richmond Gardens, we have got our individual clients that are based out of Richmond Gardens, and we can select Walter Richards. Straight from there, we click Next, and then the technician can see each of the individual backups that have been taken and are stored in the cloud for Walter's machine. Cloud Continuity takes a backup once every 2 hours, so we have a nice selection of backups that we can choose from here. From selecting the next page, it's going to just review everything, make sure that everything does look okay, and then from there, the technician who is on site can go ahead and click the Start a Restore button.
So that's an example of one of the tools that's at the disposal of Bontech as an IT managed service provider to help to serve their customers and deal with incidents like this. In fact, we've seen how important it is for any managed service provider to use a suite of tools that are very well integrated. This is what saves the service provider time. It makes them more agile and more efficient. It allows them to increase the quality of the services they deliver to their customers. And by being able to document all of this through a robust and highly advanced service desk, it allows the service provider to really capture their best practice and learn from everything they do to make them even better in the future. This is the power of one Datto. It allows MSPs not only to deliver these kinds of services, but to get better peace of mind. That not only do they have the best tools for the job, but they have a platform that's going to enable them to really be successful in everything that they do. Thank you for watching.